Okay, well, hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Heromakers Podcast. And Ann, I have to tell you that yesterday I was reading this article about this little town in Alaska that apparently saw the sun for the last time in 2 months. Like there's this little town in Alaska and like the sun won't, apparently they get like the sunrise throughout the day, but otherwise they're in darkness. And I thought, how sad would that be, right? Have you heard of this? Like some people in Alaska will go for months without the sun, and then they'll go 24 hours with the sun.
Wow, that'd be amazing.
It's amazing.
That'd really mess with you, though.
It would really mess with you. Well, you know what's messy with me too is that it's 55 here, and here we are at the end of November, and I'm like, what is happening in Chicago, right? It's like, where's the snowflakes? I'm so confused.
After our interview, I'm actually going to go to a provincial park that's close by because I need to get out. Also, get out of Toronto and get out into nature and just go for a walk and see some beautiful things because it's probably going to be our last warm day of the year.
Right? Well, so we say, but you know, but that's great. I mean, that's a good idea, Anne. Like, just get outside and enjoy nature, and so fun. But and I'm really excited about our guest today because like she's gonna like talk to us about this amazing job she has, which Megs, I'm gonna tell you, like you almost have my dream job. You're like a party planner in the best way possible. I love it. So welcome to the podcast, Megs Yunn. Is that right? Is it Yunn?
It's Yunn, like fun.
Yunn like fun. That's awesome.
That's a great name.
Oh, it's meant to be. So, and we're gonna call you Megs because people call you Megs. And Megs, you started this organization about 9 years ago called Beverly's Birthdays, where you provide birthday parties and birthday celebrations to children who haven't ever experienced those things, which
is true.
Incredible.
Wow.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, now don't do too good on this don't do too well on this podcast because I might have to move out there and become part of your team. So, and you are coming to us from the suburbs of Pittsburgh.
Correct. Yes, I'm a Pittsburgh girl, black and gold, glitter in our veins.
I love it. Good. So now we have to take a road trip out to Pittsburgh too to see the hills, right? Are you guys have some hills around you?
Yeah, Pittsburgh is a really unique place. Like it's a cultural melting pot. It's high rising in tech, but yet, you know, where I am, Pittsburgh is in Allegheny County and I'm in Westmoreland County, and Westmoreland County is still very rural. And so we have, you know, parks and nature and a pow and lots of beauty, just moments from us, and then the city as well. So
like the best of all worlds, right?
Yeah, and we don't have all of this Mother Nature disasters for the most part. So that is like a good thing. We're not in Tornado Alley or hurricanes so earthquakes, like that doesn't happen in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So
my husband and I have talked about that being in Chicago too. Now we do get some tornadoes, but we don't get any of the other stuff.
Yeah, you'll get the occasional like microburst as well as some flooding because we have a lot of creeks. And but other than that, we steer clear of a lot of natural disasters.
Interesting.
Except pandemics.
Except nobody can avoid those. Sorry, people. We're all in it together, though. Okay, so Megs, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your background, and then we're gonna kind of up to the point where that fateful day when you met this little girl who changed your life.
Yeah, I'm 30. I'm about to be 36. I'm married to a wonderful man who has supported everything that I do from day one. And I'm a mom of 4. I have a 7-year-old, 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and 2-year-old. So they've been a part of the joy and cheer we've spread from the very beginning. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I'm a Pittsburgh girl. I went to college out of state at Marietta College in southeastern Ohio. And my background educationally is in organizational communications. And then I have a minor in leadership studies. And so I have always really been that interpersonal type of person. I like engaging with people. I thought I wanted to go into corporate training and development. I got out of college and I got my MBA. I worked in an ad agency. And what I had found was so compelling was I really liked being on the pro bono cases where we had some nonprofit clients. And I loved that. I loved that element that I was helping. And After the ad agency, I actually was invited back to my alma mater to teach for a year. They had a 1-year teaching position available. And so I taught college freshmen, like intro to speech and public speaking courses. And what I had noticed was so many of my recruited freshmen college football players from inner cities were not at the reading and writing levels that I truly needed them to be for an advanced college writing course. And so I said, you know what? I feel like my work is not done in this space of working with youth from vulnerable populations and communities, but I wasn't a teacher. And so how can I kind of get back to Pittsburgh and do this work? And so I actually did a term of service with AmeriCorps, and I worked with adjudicated juveniles. And so these were individuals who had been removed from their public school and, had juvenile offenses, but we were working on leadership development and character development. And I really loved it. I loved the work and I loved working with that population. And after that, I was able to take a position where I was the director of volunteer programs at a local college in Pittsburgh. And my whole role was to connect the college students to needs in the community. And the community we were in was south of Pittsburgh, and it actually had like 4 public housing plans within a mile of the actual pretty affluent college. And so there really was this quite juxtaposition in, what the college campus was experiencing and the community there, and then the needs of the community that are a block away. And it was there and through that role that I met Beverly. I was at a local after-school program where my college kids were volunteering, and I was doing a site visit. I came up, sat down next to a little girl. She was 11 at the time. And I said, Beverly, she's working on her homework, had to do a reading assignment. She had to use the word accustomed in a sentence. I said, Beverly, at birthday parties, people are accustomed to eating what? She looked at me, she said, Miss Megs, I've never had a birthday party. I've never even had my own slice of birthday cake. When you pause that moment, that is the moment that really, I think we all have moments in our life which really change the trajectory of where we're going. And that is that moment for me. I remember that it felt like someone had knocked me in the gut. And I was like, I'm not going to cry. Please don't cry. Don't cry. And we'll find a new meaning of the word. We moved on. But I went home that night and I cried the entire ride home, and I called my husband and I called my mom, and I was 26, and I said I would gladly give up all 26 birthdays if there are more Beverlys out there. I'm going to do something about this. And I think what I was most feeling was I was angry at myself that I had never even thought that for as many birthdays that I had had and celebrated, it had never dawned on me that there are kids out there that might not be having a very happy birthday or being celebrated or recognized. And so I remember that was March of 2011, and I said, I'm going to do something about this. And I didn't really know what that looked like yet. And I think, when you put that good energy out into that world, like the answers will follow. And so in June of that year, I was actually at the National Conference for Volunteering and Service, and Scholastic Books was putting on a contest called Be Big in Your Community. Anyone could submit an idea to make their community better. And so I thought, all right, Beverly's birthdays. And although Beverly herself was not experiencing homelessness, I knew I wanted to work with a population that I could connect with and agencies that I could support. And so I wrote up a little ditty for Beverly's birthdays, and I submitted it. And a couple months went by, and I remember I got home from work that one afternoon, and there was a package from Scholastic on my doorstep. And things were still mailed like 9 years ago. And it was a letter that said, out of 1,000 entries in the nation, I won.
Wow.
And so that was extremely exciting. But I also remember the emotion that flooded over me was like, oh shit, I have to do this now. Like what? Because at that point it was very just like theoretical. And so in January of 2012, I received the prize, which was $2,500. And so you can basically think of that as like the seed money that started Beverly's birthdays. And, you fast forward 9 years, and we actually have 6 programs. We partner with 93 social service agencies, 63 schools. We have 2 contracts with our Department of Human Services in Allegheny County in Pittsburgh. And collectively, we're able to recognize over 31,000 children's birthdays annually.
That's annually.
Annually. Mm-hmm.
Let's just hold on to that for a second. 31,000?
Wow.
Yes. And so
wow, that's amazing.
I know. So that number, people go like, how is that so high? Well, we have a whole school-based initiative. And so we work with all of the schools in and around Pittsburgh that are, free or reduced lunch qualification. And we ensure that they have a happy birthday in their classroom. So we actually support over 1,200 teachers, pre-K through 4th grade, with birthday recognition kits for their classroom. So, a button, a crown, a pencil, a cape, everything that the classroom teacher would need to, have a very happy birthday in the classroom. And so that number is around 25,000. And then the remaining 6,000 is a lot more working with the populations through the agency partners, the shelters, the group homes, that piece of it. But yeah, okay, it's a lot.
So Megs, I have like so many questions here.
Yeah.
Okay, so first let me say that I don't think many of us, like when we are growing up, we think of like a birthday party as like it's a luxury. Like I think most of us, right? So I think you probably weren't in the minority. I mean, this is just not on our radars for most people who don't live under the poverty line or so that's one thing. It's just the awareness part. But I'm interested in like, so what happened? It sounded like you had like this transformational moment, right? Yeah. Where you met Beverly, you tried not to cry, then you went home and you were crying and you let yourself kind of be in that moment. Where I think sometimes people, say we meet somebody who, is homeless, or something happens, then sometimes we tend to like disengage, right? We're like, okay, you know what? That was just, I'm going to go on with my life.
Right.
It was just a moment, but you like let it actually change you.
Right.
And you kind of pushed into that sadness, which led to this.
Yeah.
So I want you to like talk about like that, like the importance of pushing into that uncomfortable.
So I think, my father has always said that what he wants for his children, and I like get emotional when I talk about this because it's just so my dad, but he has always wanted his kids to be happy, healthy, and holy. And the holy piece of it is very personal, and that can mean something to, all three of his kids. That the holy piece of it looks different for all three of us. But he always has said that like Beverly's birthdays is my holy. And it is 100% kind of the Lord's, this was put in my place and space, and I embraced it, and it was kind of my calling. And I believe that wholeheartedly, because the amount of fulfillment that I have personally had and the amount of growth that I have had over the 9 years and the privilege to be able to do what I do, it has been probably more of a gift to me than it has sometimes been to probably the families we support, because I have just been so exposed to so many wonderful families. I have learned about resiliency from people that I would never have known in my own personal private bubble prior to this world. And it has really just taught me so much about the grit of the human spirit. And so I am very blessed that that was an opportunity that I did lean into. And I think we all have these moments in our lives where they're quiet, and let them be louder if you hear them. Like if they're calling you, if they're encouraging you, whatever it might be, seize the moment. And whatever that is, it should almost become an extension of who you are, like an extension of your passion. And I love the fact that I was able to create an organization that also really speaks to my skill sets. And like, I finally found something that I am good at. I'm still learning each and every day, but it feels like a perfect fit for me. And then to have found something that my family is a part of from day one, and that my kids can see, is just such a lovely gift. And from the moment I said I'm going to do this, I love the fact that I didn't sit down, I didn't create a business plan, I didn't say, I'm going to do this, and in 6 years, this is going to look like this. No, I really just, it was genuine. It was authentic. It was this desire to help. And I think some of the best movements and moments and companies and businesses are all centered around they were solving a problem, and it was authentic and true, and they wanted to help. And it was really cool. The organization just received from the Association of Fundraising Professionals, in honor of National Philanthropy Day this week, we just received the 2020 Innovation Award. Wow. And it was for our, half of our state. And I said in my speech, I think innovation starts with just a real desire to help and to solve a problem. And so that was innovation, 9 years ago, but I didn't really look at it as like, I'm being innovative. Like, I'm just helping kids and wanting to make people see themselves and validate themselves and know their self-worth.
Well, first of all, kudos to your dad.
Thanks.
Because I think that's really fantastic. It's a generational passing on, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Of vision, I think.
Yeah.
And then I kind of latched on to what you said, extension of your passion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's amazing, because I feel like that is, it creates longevity, right? It's not a short-term thing. It makes it, if you like come into how you have been created, like from your family, your foundations, sure, who you are and your own natural giftings. And then when you come into that moment, it's like everything makes sense.
Yeah.
Like everything in your life up to that point, it now clicked and you're like, and then an extension of your passion where you just move into that. And that's amazing. So I'm going to link back to that also word that you said, which is also one of the hero traits of grit.
Yes.
I don't know if you checked out. I'm like, did you check out the website? Anyway, so I would love for you to like explain to people what that looks like, because you said you've just met the most amazing people.
Yeah, what continues to blow my mind is that I don't think people really, until you actually immerse yourself in the world of social services, and I love that I'm kind of like in tandem to it. I have the most incredible amount of respect for the people on the front line who are the social workers and the caseworkers who are in this field like each and every day. And like I'm in tandem to it. I support them as they support the work that they're doing for their families. And I have just been like blown away at these difficult life experiences these families have gone through, and yet continue to work to thrive. And the best way I can put it is if you wake up every day and you have the opportunity to not worry about surviving the day, then you have no idea what it's like to live at or below the poverty line and to basically wake up every day trying to survive, and how exhausting that must be. And, in this pandemic, I think it spoke so much. People are exhausted. They're exhausted at just, they can't control anything. It's overwhelming. It's stressful. Life's upside down. Well, I can't imagine what the families that I work with are experiencing in addition to a pandemic. And yet they still get up and those moms show up to the party. And I think the example that I love the most is, and it was one of the reasons we developed a new program, it was after this experience with this mother, is we were at a shelter. This was several years ago. We were at a shelter, and this is a shelter for women who've experienced domestic violence, abuse. And this mom had a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a 4-day-old. And she walked to the newborn appointment. Now, first, there's a lot of issues, like why was mom walking to the newborn appointment? Why was transportation not arranged? So like, again, like this is like, there's all of these barriers all the time for families that are experiencing poverty. There's barriers. But this mom walked to this newborn appointment and then walked back 4 days postpartum and brought her kids to this birthday party. And I remember we were holding on the baby and mom's eating pizza and she just looked exhausted. And I thought, but she showed up. Wow. So we need to show up and we need to show her that she's not alone, because how lonely it must feel to have 3 kids, 4 days postpartum, and being in a shelter. And I said, there's more that we can do. And that is why we launched a whole program called Itty Bitty Birthday Cheer. And it's our whole birthday recognition program. But there's, that's just one story, and there's countless other stories of these families who continue to show up. And I think part of moving the needle forward is removing the stigma that are attached to how people are in these circumstances. We're not perfect people. We are all flawed. And I think if this year has showed us anything, it's that we need to be kinder to one another, because the world is so angry. And when you strip away, like, we are all imperfect people, and compassion and grace gets you a lot further than judgment and anger. And so I like that the work that we do is wholeheartedly centered in compassion for people. And it took me that first year, like, I was shell-shocked. I mean, that first year of starting to do parties, I'd never been in a homeless shelter before, so I didn't even know what to expect. And I think I was equally as nervous just about, would they receive me well as being received. And when it's stripped away, those first years of doing those parties and those moms, because it was one party a month. Now we do 17 to 20 parties a month. But that first year was me. It was like me pregnant with Wyatt and my husband, and we were doing these parties. And that group of mamas at that shelter that first year, like, they were my girls. Like, and their kiddos are like my kiddos. And, they were thrilled to have Wyatt being born. And, like, we became a family. And it was because we just bonded on, like, life, not about their circumstances. We were just human to human.
Megs, this reminds me. So I've done some mentoring with some women who have been sexually exploited.
Sure.
And early on, I kind of had that thinking too, where it's like, I'm like, what if they don't like me? Like, what if they think I don't know what I'm talking about or whatever? And then I found, like, when we actually started to meet, like, it was great. It was just like a friendship. So I'm wondering, like, how do we not let ourselves get in the way of helping other people? Like, how do we make this not about us, right?
Right.
How can we be others centered?
Well, it's, so I'm from the city of Mr. Rogers. And so, that is the world we have. What I've always loved about Mr. Rogers is that his, whole take on his show was when he looked into the camera and he envisioned the child that he was speaking to, and he looked directly at them. And he spoke directly to them. And these were these simple, meaningful interactions that are quite profound. And I think what this high-tech society and this big driven, like, social media, the good and the bad of it, is that we have stopped focusing on these simple, meaningful human interactions of just two people talking to one another. You go to a bus stop and everybody's just sitting there looking on their phone, when you could just say hi to your neighbor. And that really is kind of like that mentality of Mr. Rogers. And I think Pittsburgh, we try really hard to embrace that sentiment. And I think we have to get out of our own way sometimes, like, get out of our own way, because you're the one holding yourself back. And it just really speaks to how human insecurity is. Like, we all have our own insecurities. And so that's something that actually brings us together as opposed to divides us. And so when you can have just genuine, authentic conversations, I think that's where real meaningful relationships start. And, when I've built my staff over the last 10 years, I've wanted them to embrace that same, I can't be at every party, but I genuinely wish I could, and I want to engage with every family there. So that's kind of how I teach my staff, is like, you're sitting down and having a conversation. Like, we're friends. And I think I'm always so humbled at the fact that, like, imagine being a mom and being in a place and space where you actually have to pick up the phone and call an organization to say, I'm not going to be able to provide my child a birthday. Like, that automatically must make you feel like a failure. Even if you're not, you feel worthless because your job is to provide for your child and you're not able to right now. And so the fact that you picked up the phone, I always say, wow, how brave of you. Like, you are such a brave mom for being able to do that. So you worry about the other stuff you got to focus on. You got a friend in me, let me help you out. And I think somewhere along the way we stopped being friends. And
that's such good stuff. Like, we should bring back, all of us should, like, one time a day, like, go up to somebody and say, like, will you be my neighbor?
It's just like that common,
my friend, something simple.
Like, it's incredible. Like, isn't it so incredible when you see the things on social media that were like, oh, the person in front of me paid for my coffee. And then like all that's, but like, why is that so shocking to us?
Yeah.
Like, it should be like, nice gestures should not be something that is a surprise. Because in actuality, nice gestures are all around, but the dark and the scary and the bad are the headlines.
Yeah. And that's why we started this podcast too. Is just to, like, hey, the world is not all bad. There's actually a lot good going on. Okay, so I want to talk, I know, Ann, you probably have a question too, but one more question for me. So I want to talk just about joy, because, you know, okay, so Christmas is coming, the holidays are coming, and I think a lot of us, when we think of helping other people, we think of like, kind of more like, you know, getting somebody groceries, like that kind of thing. Like, it's very practical needs.
Sure.
But let's talk about how we can help other people just in ways that are more luxury, right? Like, I wouldn't say a birthday party is luxury, so I'm not gonna say that.
Sure.
But I would say, what are some ways that we can, like, help people just by offering, like, joy and laughter and kindness?
Yeah, you know, so I think about there's an organization in Pittsburgh that's called Tickets for Kids, and their whole platform is being able to have kids experience opportunities and activities that they might not otherwise have the opportunity to do. And that is joy. Those are those lived moments, like getting to go to the zoo, getting to go to the museum, and they get tickets for kids, like, donated. So if you're listening and there's something like that, and I know we're in a virtual world right now, but eventually we won't, hopefully, be. But you think about, like, I always think, like, what do you have the luxury or the privilege to be able to do each and every day that you don't even think about? That is not necessarily something that these families that we support are able to experience. And how can you make it that joy? How can you inject that joy into their life? You know, now something as simple as, like, my child has the ability to have subscription to these reading apps on their phone. Like, I pay extra because I can, for them to read and enjoy the love of reading. Libraries, they're available, but it's different now, so it's not as easy to access. Something as simple as, like, sponsoring a reading app. So a literacy organization that says, hey, I want to be able to, I'm going to make a donation and I'm going to, like, get your kids and get an app on their phones or whatever. Just things that are, like, thinking outside the box, because if you are waking up and getting the joy of living, not everyone has that. A lot of people are surviving, and that's a heavy weight to carry every single day.
That's good.
I was just struck by, I feel like what you're doing is providing dignity, just human dignity, and that you are a human being and you are worthwhile and of value just because you exist, you know?
Yeah.
So another hero of mine is my friend, Carrie McLeod. So Carrie, if you're listening, she has her PhD in theater, but she has actually traveled the world, and she has her PhD, she teaches all over the world, including, like, created her own program in Switzerland. But she worked with former child soldiers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In the Central African Republic. So after they leave, somehow they escape, and now she's working with them. And she actually works with them to remember moments of joy. But she's like, hey, so act out, like, you know, and then when I say freeze in your moment of joy.
Yeah.
And it really takes them a long time because they're so traumatized.
And it is so true. You know, when I hate when Beverly's birthdays is categorized as, like, a nicety, because we are not. Like, I'm well aware that, like, our organization doesn't fit into your standard, like, categories. We're not food security. We're not technically, you know, we're not housing. We're not all of these categories. But we are a necessity. And the reason we are is because fundamentally, if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have, housing and shelter, and the air we breathe. Safety is like basically next, and then you do esteem. If you don't even feel safe in the ability to like know or love yourself, then you are never going to be able to get to a place in space where you can thrive. And that starts with that self-affirmation and that validation that on the day that is yours, your birthday, you are seen, you are loved, you are recognized. And that carries a lifetime of weight if you're holding that burden of no one recognizing you. And we had a child in foster care. I remember reading about this. It wasn't one of our kids, but it was a study that was done, and it was a research paper I was reading. And this child has been in and out of foster care her entire life. And she was finally with a foster mom at the age of 16. And she also was a young mother herself, this 16-year-old. And the 2 years that they were together, like it was an uphill battle to be able to vibe with each other and create a relationship with each other. But the girl was graduating high school, and the mother really wanted to do a lovely, graduation party. What an accomplishment, what a milestone. And the girl had so much like anxiety about it. And finally the foster mother was like, why? She goes, I've never been celebrated before. I never have believed I'm worth celebrating. This is very overwhelming. So you can't even know how to accept the love and the joy and you're worth celebrating, because nobody has ever shown that to you. Anytime we've had the opportunity to have national press with Beverly's birthdays, I'll get calls from all over the country of individuals who are like, I saw your story and it just touched my heart. I'm 47 years old. I had a rough childhood and I was that kid. And like, and they're crying, telling me about that. And that's because that pain is still there. It's buried probably, but it's there. And so if we can start from our ittiest bittiest babies in providing joy, then, despite the circumstance that they're in, that was a happy birthday. And, Dr. Seuss once said, you never know the true value of a moment until it becomes a memory. And how powerful is a memory? How intimate is a memory? It is yours. You can't quantify it. You can't track it. You can't put the outcomes to it, but it's yours. And I helped provide that to you. And that is so intimate and personal. And I love the fact that Beverly's birthdays is a part of that, because if that kid can look back and remember their 8th birthday, and they're not remembering me, they're remembering mom was clean and sober and there and present for my 8th birthday. And that's a memory will last a lifetime. And how cool is that we're giving something that is so not fleeting, even though it's just a moment, it's actually a lifetime that it hangs on to. And I love that.
So first, I love you because you're quoting Dr. Seuss. You're quoting Mr. Rogers. I'm like, come on, like, can we get better people to quote on this? No, and I love it. And this is really, Megs, you represent what a hero maker is, because
thank you.
You're hitting it right on the head. Is that what you're doing? Is you are giving something to people who will, like you're talking about, the memory. The wonderful memory they're going to have carrying them forward in their life. 20 years from now, they're going to look back and they're going to say, I remember that, and it helped form and make me who I am. Like, it was that one thing. And it's like, you had the transformational moment with Beverly. You cried, you launched this thing, you're funded, and now you're giving people what we hope, right, is a transformational moment. Like that, I felt so loved, so celebrated. Therefore, I believe in myself. Therefore, I'm going to go out and live a life that's going to impact other people and change other people.
And that is, that's our hope. And I'll never forget, there was this one mom, her name was Tiara, and she was at a shelter for 2 years. And this is earlier on. So I am that Tuesday, the 3rd Tuesday of every month. That was me at the party. And I had her 3 kids, and I had given them a birthday twice during that time, because she was at the shelter, but she was working these programs. She was getting her associate's degree, like all kinds of great things. And I remember it was coming time for graduation. And we got tiara, like a diploma frame, so she could have her, diploma, hang it. And she said, Miss Megs, I'd really love it if you would come to my graduation. And I was like, oh, wow, like, thank you. And so I came. It was me and my program coordinator. It was Tiara and her 3 kids and her mother. And like, that was her tribe. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, how is the random Tuesday night birthday lady, like, sitting here? Like, it felt so, like, sad and, like, powerful at the same time, and humbling to know that, like, because I genuinely was rooting for her, that she saw that. And I remember thinking, wow, this is just deeper than just the fact that we're giving these birthdays. This is a relationship that we're building. And then she got her own place shortly thereafter, and so she was able to move out of the shelter. And it was her youngest, Olivia's, going to be her 3rd birthday. And she called us up and said, Miss Megs, would you and Michelle come to Olivia's 3rd birthday? I'm going to throw a birthday party, and I want to show you I can do it. And so my program manager went to her house and, went to the birthday party. And I just think it just goes to show that, like, it's deeper, and you're just becoming a part of someone's life. Even if it's a fleeting moment, you can have impact. Like, we all can have impact in someone else's lives, and why not make it for the good?
That's awesome. So you're also, like, showing them how, right? So, like, if you've not had a birthday, how do you know how to throw one, right? But that's huge. But also, I just want to say that I heard you, and I think I've heard you correctly at the very beginning of this interview. You said you pack a cape in the little birthday.
Yeah, we do for our school-based kids. We give them a superhero cape, and I love it because they are. Everyone, and it's funny because, like, we just did a superhero theme party last month, and for parties during a pandemic, they've all been outside. They've been timed. They've been very socially distant, but our kids need to be seen. Like, that's period. Like, they need to have opportunities to interact with their caseworkers, their team support staff, and the birthday boutique, which is our mobile fashion truck, gets the kids there because they'll come to the party for that experience. They get new clothes, but, like, we've created the, like, sparkle to show up. And we had capes, and they all got capes at these outside parties last month, and I make them do the Miss Megs superhero chant. And
okay, you have to share that now.
So we chant with our superhero, arms on our waists, and head up, chest puffed out, and we have to chant, I am strong, I am smart, I am brave, I am special, and really, really loud, I matter. And that really is what, when the glitter and birthday confetti is gone, I want them to know that they matter. They matter to me. They should matter to themselves. And that hopefully will start to, you plant seeds early on, those seeds blossom, and hopefully they can believe that in themselves.
I love it. Okay, so you're in Pennsylvania, and do you have any plans to expand beyond?
Yeah, honestly, my heart is here. There is still so much work that needs to be done. I've been around for 9 years, and I'm really only in 2 counties, and greater Pittsburgh is like a 9-county, like, spread. So I think for me, as I continue to expand the organization, it will be, local still. But I say that I had no idea what I was doing 9 years ago, so that could change. What has been cool, though, is I've actually mentored 2 individuals in the United States who started their own organizations. We have Peggy's Parties in New Hampshire. And and we have Birthday Project New Mexico is started after having these both women saw our work, were inspired, and then they took the lead, and that's awesome.
This is gonna be my next passion thing. I'm gonna start Laurie's parties here.
There's no Chicago-based there's no Chicago-based organization.
Okay, so this is what you need to do. You need to have an online training for all the people like me who want to do this in our community.
So many people have said that to me, and it was cool. I actually follow, so, like, in Canada, it's Birthday Angels.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if they're Toronto or Ontario, but they do exist. And so it was cool to see them kind of blossom like 5 or 6 years ago, and I've been following their journey as well. So, the idea is not novel. It's, I like to think I put my own spin and glitter to it, but if you're helping people in your community, like that's lovely. So do it.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm still going to wait for the training, like the official training of like, how to make a party.
Clone me. And then.
And how to get the superhero chant in, Megs.
Yes.
Okay.
Mandatory.
Okay, so Megs, we unfortunately have to wrap up, and I'm really sad about this because I have like 1,000 other questions, but where could we find you on social media and on the web?
Yeah, so our website is beverlysbirthdays.org. We're extremely active on Facebook, so that's literally just Beverly's Birthdays. And then we are on Instagram, Beverly's_birthdays. And so, please follow us on our social media. We post a lot. You get inside. If you look at our Facebook page from yesterday, we actually live streamed one of our virtual parties.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I was singing going to the zoo. I was doing a puppet show, like all kinds of
fun. Gosh, seriously, this is like the best. This is like the best job you have right now.
It doesn't feel like work. It's a joy.
Right?
Really quick question though. Are you still in touch with Beverly?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I did not know Beverly very well. The interaction was fleeting to, begin with, but about a year after I had started the organization, and I was no longer working at the university, I reached out to her elementary school, and I brought a birthday package, and I wrote her a note, and her principal gave it to her, and the principal called me and said that Beverly had remembered the conversation that we had had. And that, at 12, how much do you fully process? But that at that point in time, it was an open door. And that it will still remain an open door. For all I know, she follows me on social, like, I don't know, she might follow me on social media, but I just think like her honesty has really inspired the ability to celebrate so many others. And I think like if we get back to that root of having honest conversations with individuals and listening to those moments in our heart that say like, this doesn't seem right, or I should do something about this, do it.
That's so good. Okay, you're amazing. Can I say that? Like, just remember that today as you're doing your work. Like, there's a person over here in the Chicago area that's like totally cheering you on. I'm like, woohoo.
I appreciate it.
And in Toronto, right? And we're like,
I know.
Absolutely.
I'm international.
You're international. That's right. You're global. Okay, well, this is amazing. And so for everybody listening, I just want to encourage all of you guys to find simple ways to love the people in your communities, look for opportunities to care for the kids around us, because I think sometimes maybe kids are even overlooked, right? And so when you see a kid sitting on the street, sit down and just start talking and engaging them in a conversation. And boy, I just think sometimes we make things harder than they are. Love simply and love well. And thank you guys for joining us for this episode of the Heromakers Podcast. Go back and listen to some of our other ones where we talk about some of these issues of poverty and homelessness and the amazing way that people are addressing these issues. So we love you guys, and we'll see you next time.